We decided your son can come, but your daughter can't. She's too risky. That's what my sister Lauren said. Like she was canceling a catering order, not excluding my 9-year-old autistic child. My son Miles was fine. But my daughter Harper? Apparently, she might ruin the vibe in front of Lauren's new in laws, the kind of people my parents worship like money comes with sainthood. Harper had been practicing for weeks script cards, smile reminders. Don't interrupt. She was trying so hard to be allowed. And in one text, I ended it. Noted. We won't be attending. Would you have stayed quiet? Or would you have burned the whole fake perfect circus down? If this hits you, tap like, because what happened next shocked everyone. I need you to picture my kitchen the week before my sister Lauren's wedding. Not Pinterest cute. More like, my daughter Harper had turned it into a command center. There was a photo of a dress taped inside the cabinet door at her eye level because she's 9. And if she can see the plan, she can breathe through the anxiety. There were index cards on the counter with these neat, serious letters like she was prepping for court. Smile. Say congratulations. Ask one question. Do not interrupt. She'd cross off little boxes like this. Wedding was a test she could pass if she just tried hard enough. And that's the part that still makes my stomach twist. Because Harper wasn't excited like a kid. She was excited like somebody who's spent her whole life feeling slightly wrong. Like she was finally getting a chance to prove she deserved a seat at the table. My son Miles, 11, all sharp elbows and soft heart, would hover near her without making a big deal about it. He'd slide her a fidget toy. He'd distract an adult who stared too long. He didn't announce it. He just did it. Like he'd been quietly training to protect his sister in a world that keeps asking her to be smaller. Harper looked up at me that day and asked, for maybe the 100th time, Mom, what do I say if someone asks what I want to be when I grow up? I told her, tell the truth. She frowned. The truth can be wrong. And I swear, if you've never loved a child who thinks like that, you might not understand how heartbreaking that sentence is. Because she wasn't being difficult. She was being honest about fear, the fear that the wrong answer, too blunt, too weird, too literal, gets you punished. Then Lauren called. You know the kind of cheerful voice people put on when they're about to do something cruel? Like they're sprinkling sugar on a knife? Quick question, she said. And I already knew. Quick questions in my family are never quick. They're just pre-approved decisions delivered like you don't get a vote. We finalized the guest list, she chirped. We're keeping it tight just to keep things smooth. Smooth. That word. The one my parents use when they mean controlled, polished, no surprises, like we're a brand, not people. Then she said it. Miles can come, obviously, but we've all decided Harper shouldn't. My brain did that thing where it tries to reject reality. Like, wait, what? Did you just say my son is invited but my daughter isn't? To a family wedding? I tried to keep my voice level. What do you mean she shouldn't? Lauren sighed like I was embarrassing her by having a reaction. Please don't do this. It's a big wedding. There are important people. Ryan's family. You know how it is. And oh, I knew. My parents had been acting like Lauren's fiancé's father, Mr. Caldwell, was a king who could bless them with a new life. Their little business had partnered with his company recently. Suddenly, everything was about image. Who they sat with, what they wore, how the family looked from the outside. And my autistic 9-year-old, she was being treated like a stain. I said, Harper has been preparing for this for months. She made cards. She practices what to say. She's trying so hard. Lauren's voice sharpened. We can't risk anything. There it was, the truth without makeup. I swallowed, and I hate that I sounded like I was pleading because I was. So you're not worried she'll be overwhelmed. You're worried she'll embarrass you. Silence. Then she exhaled, irritated. People don't understand. You know how it can be. It's better this way. End of discussion. End of discussion. Like my child's dignity was a topic they'd voted down at a meeting. When I turned around, Harper was standing in the doorway clutching one of her little cards so tight it bent. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't say, I'll be good. She just swallowed and whispered, okay. And I swear that okay hit harder than any scream. It sounded practiced, like she'd already learned effort doesn't guarantee belonging. I ended the call. Then I opened the family group chat because, of course, we have one, and I typed one sentence. Noted. We won't be attending. If you've ever been the family fixer, you know what that costs. Because the fixer is the one who smooths the mess so everyone else can pretend it isn't there. But in that moment, watching my daughter fold her cards like she was folding her feelings into a drawer, something in me went cold, and I decided I'm not fixing this. If you're already mad, good, stay with me. Because the next part is where they tried to punish me for telling the truth. After the wedding came and went without us, our house got quiet in this weird, heavy way. Miles went back to school like normal. Harper stopped mentioning weddings like the word itself was radioactive. And then Easter came. I've hosted Easter for years. Not because I'm some domestic goddess, because I'm the oldest, and in my family that means you hold the rope so everybody else can climb. I do the dishes. I buy the plastic eggs. I smile through the passive-aggressive comments. I translate my parents' helpful advice into something less cruel. I manage the emotional weather like it's my second job. But that year, I did one quiet thing that changed everything. I sent the invitation text to the usual circle. Cousins, aunts, the relatives who show up with potato salad and opinions. I didn't include my parents. I didn't include Lauren. No dramatic announcement. No speech. Just absence. Miles watched me press send and nodded once like he understood exactly what I was doing. Harper kept drawing at the table, pretending she didn't care, but her shoulders looked lighter, like she could breathe. For about 10 minutes, it felt peaceful. Then my mom barged into the group chat like she was storming a courtroom. Wait, are we not invited? The tone wasn't confused. It was staged. Like she wanted an audience to watch me get corrected. Lauren jumped in immediately. So first you skip my wedding, and now you're cutting us out of Easter? What is wrong with you? And my dad, right on cue. This is cruel. You're punishing everyone. Here's what they do. They don't come to you privately. They don't ask how your child is. They drag it into public so you feel embarrassed enough to surrender. My hands hovered over the phone. That old reflex woke up inside me, the fixer reflex. The one that says, make it easier, say sorry, smooth it out. Then I looked up. Harper was watching my face with this still, careful expression, like she was taking notes on what it costs to stand up for yourself. So I typed one message. One, and I made it plain. I didn't attend Lauren's wedding because you excluded Harper for being autistic. You said you couldn't risk embarrassment in front of Ryan's family. So no, you're not invited to Easter. We're done. And the chat went silent in a way you can feel. No emojis, no jokes. Just people reading and recalculating who the villains are. A cousin typed, "Is that true?" I didn't answer. Because my daughter's dignity is not up for debate like it's a casserole recipe. A few minutes later, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize at first. Then a name popped up. Ryan, Lauren's husband. My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen like it might bite me. I answered anyway. Hello? His voice was careful, not angry, not performative. I'm sorry to call, he said. I saw the messages. I need to ask, is it true? You know what that question means? It means he didn't hear this story from my sister. He didn't hear the ugly version. He heard nothing, which means they hid it. On purpose. I said, yes. They told me Harper couldn't come because they didn't want to risk embarrassment. There was a long pause. And then he said something that still makes my throat tighten. I didn't know. I told him, I believe you. Because here's the thing, if he'd defended her, if he'd tried to minimize it, I would have hung up. But he didn't. He just went quiet and said, thank you for telling me the truth. And then he hung up. The next morning, my front door sounded like it was being attacked. Not a normal knock. Not a, can we talk? Knock. a pounding. Miles appeared in the hallway instantly like a guard dog. Harper stood behind him, pale, gripping the hem of her shirt like she was holding herself together with fabric. I opened the door and there was Lauren, eyes red, not with sadness, with fury. She didn't look at Harper, not once. She locked onto me and hissed, "What did you tell him?" I kept my voice calm. He called me. He asked if it was true. I said yes. Lauren laughed this ugly, sharp laugh. "Of course you did. You couldn't wait to humiliate me." And then she stepped closer, too close, and grabbed my arm hard enough that her nails dug in. Miles moved forward. "Don't touch my mom," Lauren snapped at him. "Stay out of it." And Harper made this tiny sound, barely a sound, like her body couldn't keep all the fear inside. Lauren's eyes flicked to her, and before she could stop herself, she spat. "This is exactly why we didn't want her there." There it was, the line that proves everything. Harper's face changed instantly, like a curtain dropped. That shutdown look, that retreat, the look of a child leaving her own body because it's safer than staying. And something in me snapped, quietly, cleanly. "Get out," I said. Lauren tried to keep shouting, like volume could rewrite the truth. But I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I didn't perform. I shut the door, and I hosted Easter anyway. Quiet, safe, no eggshells, no translating cruelty into good intentions. Just my kids laughing in the yard like they didn't have to earn love. And if you think that's where it ends, no, because my parents showed up next, and they weren't there to apologize. They were there to save their money. A few days after Easter, my parents came to my door with smiles so shiny they looked painful. My mom held a container like she was offering peace in Tupperware. My dad kept his hands in his pockets, shoulders raised like he was trying to look harmless. "Hi, sweetheart," my mom sang. "Can we talk?" I didn't step aside. "About what?" Her smile twitched. "We hate how things have been. This has gotten out of hand." Out of hand, not out of line, not cruel, not wrong, just inconvenient. Then my mom's eyes flicked past me toward the living room, checking, like always, if Harper was visible. And that's when the real reason came out. "There's concern," she said carefully, "about the partnership." Ah, there it is. My parents' small business had been riding on their connection to Mr. Caldwell's company, and now that Ryan had questions, that connection was wobbling. My dad cleared his throat. "They're reconsidering some things." My mom jumped in fast. "Nothing is final. It's just tense. But we can fix it. We think there's a way to clear the air." I crossed my arms. "Let me guess. The way involves me doing emotional labor for free." My mom laughed lightly like I'd told a cute joke. "We're hosting a family dinner," she said. "Everyone will be there. Lauren and Ryan. And Ryan's parents, Charles and Evelyn Caldwell." Then she added, like she deserved applause, "And we want you to bring Harper. She'll be included. We'll do accommodations. Quiet rooms, safe foods, breaks, and whatever she needs." It sounded rehearsed, like they'd Googled how to look supportive 5 minutes ago. After they left, I sat at the table with my kids. Miles didn't hesitate. "It's a trap." Harper stared at her fingers and asked softly, "If we go, will they want me there?" That question, God, that question is the kind of pain you don't forget. I told her, "You deserve to be wanted, not tolerated. But we can go and we'll leave the second it feels wrong." So we went. And if you walked into my parents' house that night, you would have thought they were preparing for a royal coronation. Everything spotless, candles, fancy plates. My mother's company voice turned up to maximum. They weren't hosting a family dinner. They were staging a performance. Lauren sat there in her new wife glow-like armor. Ryan stood off to the side, jaw tight, eyes tired. Charles and Evelyn Caldwell sat at the table calm and unreadable, polite in that wealthy way where you can't tell if they're judging you or studying you. My mom made a big show of the accommodations, loudly, like, "Look how kind we are. Please clap." Harper nodded, quiet, eyes down. Dinner started. Almost fine. The kind of fine that makes you wonder if you overreacted. Then my mom stood up and tapped her glass. Of course she did. I just want to clear something up, she said, smiling too wide. People don't understand autism. It can be difficult. Sometimes Harper says things and people can be offended, and we just didn't want that at the wedding. But we love her in our own way. In our own way. You know what that means, right? It means we love her as long as she's convenient. Harper's shoulders curled inward. I watched her shrink in real time, and my parents looked pleased with themselves, like they'd just delivered a TED talk called How to Exclude a Child Kindly. Then Charles Caldwell leaned forward slightly and asked one question, calm, quiet, deadly. Do you think Harper is lesser because she's autistic? The room froze. My mom's smile hung there for a second too long, then cracked. My dad stared at his plate like the answer might be printed on it. My mom forced a laugh. No, of course not. We were just trying to make things easier. Charles nodded once, like he'd heard enough. And then he said simply, I'm autistic. Silence. Lauren went rigid. My dad blinked like his brain stalled. My mom's mouth opened and nothing. Charles didn't dramatize it. He didn't soften it. He just stated it like it was normal, because it is. I've been autistic my whole life. What? He continued. And people looked at me the way you just looked at her. Like I was a risk. Like I needed managing. So I learned to mask. I got very good at it. Then he turned to Harper. His voice softened. Not syrupy, not pitying, just steady. Harper, you are not lesser. You are not broken. You don't have to shrink to make other people comfortable. Harper lifted her head slowly, like she couldn't help it, like she was hearing oxygen for the first time. Charles leaned back and looked at my parents again. And as for the partnership, he said, flat as stone, it's not going to work. My mom's face drained. He stood up. Evelyn stood with him. Ryan stood too, and he didn't look at Lauren. No debate, no negotiation, just consequences. The front door closed behind them, and the silence left in that dining room felt heavier than shouting. I took my kids' hands and walked out without saying a word. Because what was there to say? They didn't lose everything because I told the truth. They lost everything because the truth finally had an audience. If you've ever been told to keep the peace while your child pays the price, drop a comment. I want to know I'm not alone. 6 months later, my house is quiet in the best way. Not the walking on eggshells quiet, real quiet. The kind where my son Miles laughs like he's not on security duty anymore. The kind where my daughter Harper doesn't flinch when the doorbell rings. She's still Harper, rule-loving, blunt sometimes, brilliantly herself. But now she says what she thinks, without scanning my face afterward like she's waiting for punishment. And me? I'm still no contact. And honestly, it's the easiest boundary I've ever kept. Once I stopped confusing guilt with love. Here's what I learned. I didn't destroy my family. I stopped covering for them. I stopped translating cruelty into good intentions. I stopped letting my child be the price of everyone else's comfort. So tell me, am I in the wrong? Should I have kept the peace? Or did protecting my kids matter more than protecting their image? If you've ever been the fixer, I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. And if this hit you in the chest, like, share, and subscribe.